Today, we're talking about the better daily trainer. It's the Puma Deviate Nitro 2 versus the Hoka Mach 6. Let's begin. So before we get into the video, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're already subscribed, watching the content. Thanks so much, love you guys a lot. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and Strava for all sorts of other updates and things like that. So, without further ado, let's begin. Specs for both shoes up here, respectively. I'm not going to go into the specs too hard in terms of the numbers and figures. We'll just kind of compare more or less some of the technologies involved between both. As you can obviously see, they're like right here, right? So the main thing, of course, that's worth noting about those is that the Hoka Mach 6 is running as a higher stack with a lower offset than the Puma Deviate Nitro 2, right? We've got this 5mm offset, which is a lot more neutral than 6mm. Even though, like, that millimeter is not going to make a huge difference, I guess, in the short term. In the long term, that offset may start shrinking a lot more for both shoes as the foams kind of fatigue in their general directions, with the exception of the Puma, as we'll kind of get into. So let's just start with the main items between the Puma that kind of differentiate it from the Mach 6, right? So, of course, it does have this mesh upper that's kind of basically taking on their duration of the entire shoe. It appears to have a similar thickness to what is on the Mach 6. It's fairly loose, breathable enough comparatively to the Mach 6. Basically, on the tops of the shoe, like, we have a non-gusseted tongue. Well, it's not too, I guess it's like, it's symmetrical, but it's not in a more gusseted direction, kind of like the Mach 6 has. But it does have a little bit of cushion and plush on the tongue as well, so it kind of creates both a pro and a con, you can say. One of which is that having that breathing space makes the shoe lock down a little bit trickier because you have to play around with how tight you need to pull the shoe, but it also prevents the shoelaces from choking your foot at various points of wherever you have your tie-down zones, as I like to consider it. So that's a mixed bag, in my opinion, but I like it. I've not complained about it too much at this time. Other things to note is that there's a lot more plush running across the shoe in both the lip of the shoe and just the whole ankle area surrounding. And that, again, creates its pro and con, which, one, it's just a super comfortable ride overall with in regards to what's going on in the ankle area. But the con, at this point at least, and maybe this is just unique to my experience with the Puma, is that in my left shoe, not this one, there's a bit of pinching if I don't have the sock high enough on my ankle, which is causing a little bit of bruising. And I actually just, like, fresh off the press here with my left foot too. You can kind of see it. If I, like, show you guys here, yeah, there you go. That's as close as we're gonna get to some feet pics, people. But on my left foot, you can see I've got a bit of a road burn or road rash from the left shoe, more or less, and that's probably just as a result of, yeah, I kind of see it where it would be, where I would have some rubbing in this area of the shoe. So it's just it's a degradation issue at this point in time, but, you know, whatever. It happens. That's just kind of what happens when we have a shoe that's got like 350 plus miles on it. So anyways, moving on. The fit of the shoe comparative to the Mach 6 is a lot looser, okay? What I mean by that is that the toe box has a lot of space, in my opinion. There's a lot of space in the ankle area, a lot of space in the archway of the shoe, kind of creating for a ride that's more comfortable and will require a little bit of more of a lockdown experience in order to just have the best ride that you're looking for. So, kind of jumping into the Mach 6, same kind of deal, right? We do have a mesh upper that is, again, breathable to Hoka standards. Not their most breathable shoe to my experience, but breathable enough, right? The things that kind of differentiate here is that the toe box is extremely tight in compared to a size 8.5 to size 8.5. And I'm critical about this because I would like that kind of sizing to be standard across the board for all shoes, and I know it's tricky. I know it's not impossible, and I also know that there's some, I don't want to go into a tangent about it, but there are some nefarious kinds of sizing practices across different, I guess, markets. I think especially, maybe all one of you ladies who are watching this channel can tell me what the term was, but it's like women's clothing, like a size small in one store is like a size large in a different store, and like there's no correlation across the different brands in terms of their sizing, because intentionally designed to like market different people. I digress, right? So what I'm trying to get at here is I don't want like that kind of practice to happen with shoes, right? Where like a size 9, for example, in Hoka is like a size 8.5 in Puma, and then like a size 8 in Asics is like a size 8.5 in Nike. I don't want that happening, right? Just keep the damn shoe sizes like true to size. So that's why I'm extra critical about this, because the toe box is so tight. I've busted my toes like bloody wide open over just the tightness of what's going on here. So that's kind of my gripe with it. Now, other things to note is, yeah, we do have the gusseted tongue. The fit is really cool around, you know, the lip of the shoe, around the ankle plush area. There's a lot of comfort here as well. There's no ankle slip or heel slip in this case, so I'm very happy about that, right? Now, the other things to note when we talk about like foam and outsole technology is that there's just one foam style of just regular EVA foam running across the duration of the Mach 6, as opposed to its predecessor where it had Pro-Fly and whatnot. There's no carbon plate in this shoe to my knowledge, and we do just have, again, some changes compared to its predecessors where there's, of course, this rubber padding across the shoe. It seems to be of a Hoka brand, and it's a lot more designed for road running than, in this case, the Puma Deviate, which, as you can see, has some lugs that I've essentially burned off at this time in the shoe, on the outside at least of the area where it would have like more rectangular lugs, where here in the center we have like these teardrop style ones just to kind of grab into the ground. And then again, there is a lot of this, like, it is Puma brand, it isn't like Continental rubber like Adidas or anything like that would use, but yeah, that's basically kind of what's going on. And then of course we've got this power plate inside the shoe, which is the carbon plate, quote unquote, in this particular daily trainer, so that's just worth noting. It might have like a nylon mix, and it might not be 100% carbon, you know. And then of course we have Nitro Elite foam that's running the majority of the duration of the shoe. I think this heel piece is a similar foam style to the EVA in the Hoka, where it's a lot more not responsive. It's like a more durable foam designed to take more impact, not have so much of a squish, but more of like kind of creating that pocket on the ground, so you're not just drilling your heel into the ground, but having more of a kind of that pillow bounce. So that's as far as I remember with the Pumas at this point. So anything else worth noting about the shoe? I don't think so. I mean, the specs for the most part across the board, there's nothing like else unique between the shoes, but I guess if you have to ask the question of like which one would you rather buy, again, this seems to be always a response. It depends, but based on like the way the shoes stand alone with all specs considered, I immediately lean for the Puma Deviate Nitro, and here's why, right? At this point, I've kind of gotten used to running with shoes that have like that carbon plate, and there are shoes that have a carbon plate and are absolutely disgusting, like, to run in, whether they have high degradation or they're just simply uncomfortable after a period of time. The Puma is one of those shoes that's kind of surprised me with the fact that I forget sometimes that there's a carbon plate, which is a good thing. You don't want to get like used to the idea of like, I'm going to have this massive rebound because there's this carbon plate in the shoe, right? But at this point, there's like enough foam, enough other materials surrounding the shoe to kind of alleviate what have otherwise been like a carbon plate advantage that you would have experienced in like a Vaporfly X% 2 or an Adios Pro 3, where there's like I guess the foam is a little bit more subtle and the rubber across the shoe is a lot more subtle, and you want that carbon plate to be front and center with your running style across that shoe. Whereas here, there's a lot more flexibility to it, right? Like maybe you're a heel striker, maybe you're more midfoot. Are you a forefoot striker like I still am and kind of am working out of? Then like the plate is going to kind of work in your advantage across the shoe, right? So that being said, the shoe does weigh a lot more than the Hoka Mach 6, and this is where we kind of run into micro discussion points that you would consider when you're buying your shoe. Like, do you want a carbon plate? Let's say your answer is no. Let's say you want just something that's like true to the ground. And then you, between these two, you would lean for the Mach 6 immediately, right? That's kind of like your disqualifier from the Deviate Nitro. Do you want a shoe that's going to last you a long time? Now, at this point, like, I'm 350 plus, approaching 400 in the Deviate Nitro. My understanding of the Mach 4 is that it can get comfortably to about 300, 350, and that's what it's about rated for. So in terms of lifespan, with like all the new features that the Mach 6 has, I think the Mach 6 and the Puma Deviate have like really good lifespans across both shoes. So they will function well as daily trainers. Now, when we talk about comfort, I'm obviously leaning for the Puma Deviate Nitro, simply because the toe box has about the 8.5 size, true to size feel that I'm used to in just about every running shoe up to this point that I've run in. And I like that toe space just so I can adjust and I can tighten my foot down wherever I need to in order to get the right fit in the shoe. And that being said, like, I don't like the idea of slamming my toes into the toe box because the shoe is too tight. But I also don't like the idea of slamming my toes into the shoe because it's too loose or I have way too much space. And that's also, ironically, happened in a previous Hoka shoe that I've purchased. I think it was when I was running in a size 9 in the Arahi 16s. That might have been a shoe in 2015, 2016. That was my fault for running in a shoe that was too big. And I got black toenails for just constantly pounding the toe box, like, frontal area of that shoe because it was kind of protective in that kind of sense. So, as you can tell, Hoka is kind of notorious for having their sizing across their shoes not be totally accurate to not just themselves, but like to the outward market. So that's just something, in my experience, again, I'm not trying to take a jab at Hoka here. I like their product. I like the Mach 4, Mach 5, the Arahis when I had them, but something just wasn't settling well with this particular shoe. So what else we got? We got technologies, we've got comfort. Let's talk speed. So again, carbon plate makes the Puma Deviate Nitro have a nice speed advantage. You get more of that response, more of that kick from the shoe. It's not to say that the Mach 6 isn't fast either, because the shoe does have the same type of like snappy responsiveness that its predecessors had. So in terms of speed, I think both of them work well. It just really comes back to your original question, like, do you want speed from a natural type of shoe, from your naturally aspirated shoe, or do you want that supercharged carbon plate? Like, that's kind of the question you're asking, right? So if you want to run without the carbon plate and have some speed, the Mach 6 might be your move. But if you want the carbon plate and you want that speed, you'd probably lean more for the Puma, right? And then, of course, colorways. Like, at this point, my understanding is that Hoka has like way more colorways across the board than Puma does, but it's not to say that like Puma doesn't. I know Puma's like big with like this like black green kind of color scheme, and they got some other ones, but you know, that's kind of neither here nor there. Price wise, I think the Mach 6 might be a smidgen cheaper than the Puma Deviate. I think I bought these for like $180 at the time, and these are like about $160 right now. So if you're penny pinching, then the Mach 6 is probably the move. But if you're not, and you have like that $20 to spare because you didn't go to McDonald's for a week, then yeah, or for a day in that case, then yeah, maybe the Puma might be kind of your move there. So I think we'll leave it at that. And like the ultimate winner for me personally, like I said, is going to be the Puma Deviate, just because I've had a lot more experience with the shoe. Looking at it at 350 plus miles, like, this thing is holding strong still. There are like a few things that are kind of starting to come up with the shoe that I'm questioning, such as like this tear that I have beginning in the outside of the archway of the shoe, some of the pinching I have in the ankle area from some of the heel lip here. So these are just things that as I'm going along, I'm going to start experiencing as the shoe's lifespan starts to increase. And again, this is not a jab at Hoka for having a tighter shoe box or anything like that. We just understand that that's kind of their problem, and we would like them to fix it, because the Mach 6 should be a good shoe at 8.5. And yeah, if you think I'm being snippy for not buying a size 9 and just getting over it, like, that doesn't really solve the issue here, right? Like, it still kind of puts us in this precarious position where if I have to constantly buy 2 or 3 different pairs of Hoka shoes because we can't get the first size correct, then it just becomes like, I don't know, shopping for like 3 products at once and returning 2. And like, I don't want to do that. I would rather just like buy one shoe, get it off like my back, and just be able to rely on the shoe that I purchased, right? Because like, the scenario here would be, let's say I have a race day and I buy a shoe the day of the race and it's just too small. And the model here is, oh, you should have bought 3 of our shoes and you should have tested them all on race day and then you should have returned 2 of them. It's like, what? That doesn't really make sense to me. So like, when I want to buy this shoe in size 8.5, I would like it to be size 8.5 without any extra complaints on my end. So yeah, I think we're going to leave it here. So if you agree or disagree with the assessment, let me know in the comments below. If you have other things that you had questions about between the shoes or some experiential thoughts, also let me know as well. But I think we'll leave it at that. So thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.